Security! Get this parasite out of my sight! The voice, sharp and venomous, belongs to Brenda Walsh, and it carves through the ambient noise of Gate B-22 like a shard of glass. Her finger, tipped with a blood-red, perfectly manicured nail, doesn't just point. It stabs, jabbing hard into the chest of 17-year-old Maya Harrison. Each jab is a punctuation mark in her sentence of pure contempt. This line, this plane, it isn't for garbage like you. What would you do? How would you react if the entire world stopped to watch you be torn apart by a stranger drunk on a tiny sliver of authority? Let us know in the comments below. And before you see how Maya handles this, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to Beat Stories, because you are not going to want to miss a single second of this takedown. Maya's fingers tremble, clutching the first-class boarding pass to Tokyo that feels like a fantasy novel in her hand. It's a flimsy piece of paper, yet it represents a world Brenda is determined to deny her. With a theatrical sneer, Brenda rips the pass from Maya's grasp. She inspects it not like a document, but like a piece of filth she found stuck to her shoe. The hum of the busy terminal seems to fade into a dull roar. Passengers, once a river of anonymous faces, stop and curdle into a stagnant, watchful mob. Phones like metallic vultures rise from pockets, their lenses hungry for the unfolding humiliation. The air in the terminal grows thick, heavy with a shared, voyeuristic breath. "I don't give a damn what this forged piece of paper says," Brenda announces, her voice projecting to the cheap seats, playing to the audience she's gathered. Her disgust is a performance, honed over years of petty tyrannies. "You do not belong here." To punctuate her verdict, she tears the boarding pass in two. The pieces flutter to the ground, two halves of a shattered dream. As Maya instinctively bends to retrieve the fragments of her dignity, her hands shaking uncontrollably, Brenda's sharp heel grinds one piece into the worn airport carpet, a final, deliberate act of desecration. "Nice try, sweetheart," she coos, the word a poisoned dart. "But I've seen this pathetic little scam 1,000 times before." A hot, searing wave of humiliation washes over Maya's face. It burns hotter than any summer sun as hundreds of strangers watch her degradation, their silent judgment a crushing weight. But as she straightens up, her eyes are not filled with the tears Brenda so clearly craves. They are cold, clear, and focused. Her phone screen illuminates, the contact she's about to dial one that Brenda Walsh, in her wildest, most arrogant nightmares, could never, ever forget. The clock rewinds just 4 hours. Maya Harrison steps into the chaos of the international terminal, a solitary figure in a sea of rushing travelers. Her frayed backpack, a companion on a dozen high school trips, and a simple gray hoodie make her functionally invisible. Or worse, they make her a target for dismissive glances from the parade of luxury luggage and designer suits streaming towards the velvet ropes of the Apex Air first-class check-in. She feels the weight of their judgment, the silent questions in their eyes. She is a ghost in their world, a puzzle that doesn't fit. When Maya finally reaches the gleaming counter, the agent, a woman with a name tag that reads Cynthia, barely bothers to look up from her screen. "Economy check-in is all the way at the other end, honey. You're lost." The word honey is delivered with a cloying condescension that sets Maya's teeth on edge. Without a word, Maya slides her printed confirmation across the polished marble. "First class to Tokyo, please." Cynthia's perfectly sculpted eyebrows shoot up toward her hairline. Her dismissive posture vanishes, replaced by a rigid, suspicious scrutiny. She picks up the document as if it might be contaminated, her eyes scanning it for some hidden flaw, some evidence of the fraud she's already convinced has occurred. Her fingers tap slowly, deliberately on her keyboard, a frown deepening on her face as she stares at her monitor. "Well, this is highly unusual," she mutters, more to herself than to Maya. "Are you traveling with an adult? Family?" "Just me," Maya replies, her voice steady, despite the nervous fluttering in her stomach. "And your age?" Cynthia's tone is now that of an interrogator. 17. The agent's skepticism becomes a palpable force, thickening the air between them. It's a familiar feeling for Maya, this cloud of doubt that her very presence seems to generate in places like this. With a visible, theatrical reluctance, Cynthia prints the boarding pass. She hands it over as if expecting it to self-destruct, a bomb disguised as a ticket. Gate B22, boarding in 2 hours. Her eyes follow Maya as she walks away, a silent accusation hanging in the air. Seeking refuge in the anonymity of the airport food court, Maya orders a simple coffee and finds a small table. As she sits, she overhears 2 flight attendants, their Apex Air uniforms crisp and immaculate, gossiping over their morning lattes. "Can you believe Brenda is working the Tokyo route today?" the blonde one says, rolling her eyes. "God help anyone who looks at her sideways. She has absolutely zero patience for what she calls suspicious upgrades." Her brunette colleague lets out a short, sharp laugh. "Remember that NFL player last month? The rookie? She pulled him out of the line and made him show her his bank account balance on his phone before she'd let him board. She calls it maintaining standards," the blonde retorts, mimicking a haughty voice. "That's why the old guard passengers love her. She makes them feel safe from the riffraff." The words send a chill down Maya's spine. This wasn't just a random act of a stressed employee. This was a known pattern, a celebrated cruelty. This was the test. Maya pulls out her phone and texts her father. The experiment has begun. "We'll document everything." His reply is instantaneous, a single line that defines her mission for the day. "Remember who you are today, Maya. You are not my daughter. You are just another customer. Experience our service as it truly is." 3 terminals away, in the hushed and exclusive crew lounge, Brenda Walsh is conducting her pre-flight ritual. With 23 years at Apex Air under her belt, she sees herself not as a flight attendant, but as the guardian of the sanctum, the gatekeeper of the skies. She believes she can spot trouble a mile away, a talent she prides herself on. Her red pen circles names on the passenger manifest, a general marking her targets. The frequent flyers, the ones who know her name and slip her $100 handshakes, get a friendly green check mark. First-time passengers in the premium cabin, they get a red question mark. They are guilty until proven innocent. But when her eyes land on the name Maya Harrison, age 17, first class, traveling alone, her pen hovers. Her brow furrows. She pulls up the passenger file on her tablet. The photo attached is a simple, smiling school picture. A young black girl in a casual sweater. Brenda lets out a derisive snort. "Probably some damned computer glitch," she mutters to a junior colleague lounging nearby. "Or worse, Daddy's stolen credit card. These kids today think they're so damn clever." She makes a bold, angry note next to Maya's name. "Verify payment. Check ID thoroughly. High probability fraud." Brenda has built her entire career, her entire identity, on this supposed instinct. She catches the irregularities that gate agents and systems miss. Her supervisors, men who have been in their positions for less time than she's been flying, trust her gut. The wealthy, older passengers who form the airline's core demographic adore her for it. They see her as a protector of their exclusive world. Today, those celebrated instincts are about to ignite a fire that will burn her entire world to the ground. She clips the manifest to her board, a smug, satisfied smile on her face. She has identified the potential problems before they can ever board her aircraft. Brenda Walsh has no idea she's about to publicly humiliate the daughter of the man who owns the entire airline. The call for first-class boarding echoes through gate B-22. Maya feels a surge of adrenaline, a nervous energy that she channels into an outward calm. She joins the short line, boarding pass and ID in hand. Her face is a placid mask, concealing the storm of anxiety and determination raging within her. And then, she appears. Brenda Walsh emerges from the jet bridge like a hawk cresting a thermal, her eyes scanning the line of passengers, hungry for prey. Her gaze locks onto Maya almost instantly. It's a moment of chilling recognition. Maya is not a person to her. She is the question mark on her manifest, the problem she is preordained to solve. Brenda glides over to the gate agent, whispering something urgent and conspiratorial. The agent's professional demeanor shifts instantly to one of concern, nodding as she glances nervously at Maya. "Excuse me, miss." Brenda's voice is not loud, but it slices through the boarding chatter with an authority that makes heads turn. She approaches Maya with slow, deliberate steps, the walk of a predator that knows its quarry is cornered. "I'm going to need to see your boarding documents." The request is standard procedure, but her tone is anything but. It is thick with suspicion, an accusation wrapped in a thin veneer of customer service. The other first-class passengers, men and women in tailored suits and expensive casual wear, pause their quiet conversations. Necks crane. The air crackles with the promise of drama. "Of course," Maya says, her voice betraying none of her inner turmoil. She extends her boarding pass and driver's license, her hands remarkably steady. Brenda snatches them and begins an exaggerated theatrical inspection. She holds the documents up to the light, angling them back and forth, squinting as if searching for watermarks and microprinting that don't exist. It's a masterclass in intimidation, and it plays beautifully to her audience. A few passengers nod in grim approval. "This seems highly irregular," Brenda announces, her voice now loud enough to carry across the entire gate area. She fixes Maya with a predatory stare. "How exactly did someone like you acquire a first-class ticket?" The question, laden with insult, hangs in the air. "Someone like you." "My father purchased it," Maya answers simply. "And what does your father do?" Brenda's smile is a slash of red lipstick that never comes close to reaching her cold, dead eyes. She waits for the answer she expects, the one that will confirm all her biases. "He works in the aviation industry." The vague answer is all Brenda needs. She exchanges a knowing, triumphant glance with a portly businessman standing behind Maya. The man mutters, just loud enough for those around him to hear, "Good catch, Brenda. These scams are getting out of control." "I'm going to need to run some additional verification," Brenda says, her voice dripping with false regret. She signals the gate agent with a flick of her wrist, her victory almost complete. "Pull up the full purchase history for this ticket. Cross-reference the payment method." The gate agent types, her face a mask of concentration. A few seconds later, a flicker of confusion crosses her face. The screen in front of her shows the unassailable truth. A legitimate, full-fare purchase made with a corporate black card. Expedited processing. Everything confirms Maya's story perfectly. The agent leans toward Brenda and whispers, her voice barely audible, "The system shows a valid purchase, Brenda. It's a corporate card. Looks like it's from headquarters." Brenda's jaw tightens imperceptibly. Her perfectly constructed narrative is crumbling. Being wrong is not an option, not now, not with this rapt audience hanging on her every word. Her reputation, her very sense of self, depends on being right. "Computer systems can be hacked," she declares to the crowd, her voice ringing with renewed conviction. "They can be compromised. I am exercising my authority as the senior cabin crew member to conduct additional manual screening. The businessman behind Maya nods enthusiastically. Better safe than sorry. You can't be too careful with these kids today. Brenda feeds on his support, her confidence swelling with every murmur of approval from the onlooking passengers. She feels powerful, righteous. "Step aside, please," she commands Maya. "We need to get to the bottom of this." Brenda is no longer just a flight attendant. In her mind, she is an agent of justice, and she is about to transform this moment from a simple verification into a public spectacle. "Step over here, please." Brenda's command is sharp, a shepherd's crook yanking Maya from the line. She gestures to an open space near the gate podium, a makeshift stage for the humiliation she is about to direct. She wants maximum visibility, maximum impact. The passengers who were once a line now morph into a semicircle, a human amphitheater hungry for the show. Phones, already out, are now raised high, recording from a dozen different angles, ready to upload the drama to the court of social media. Maya moves to the designated spot, a cold dread mixing with a rising tide of anger. "Ma'am, is there a specific problem? My ticket is valid." "The problem," Brenda says, beginning to circle Maya like a shark, "is that your story is a work of fiction. First-class tickets on this route cost over $10,000. You're wearing a hoodie from a department store and carrying a backpack that looks like it's been through a war." Her words are a verdict delivered before the trial has even begun. The crowd murmurs, some nodding in agreement, their own prejudices validated by Brenda's authoritative pronouncement. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I have every right to be on this flight," Maya states, her voice low but firm. Brenda lets out a laugh, a cruel, sharp sound that grates on the nerves. "Rights? Oh, honey, let me explain something about your rights right now. I have absolute and final authority over who gets on my aircraft. My aircraft. If I determine, for any reason, that you are not suitable for the first-class cabin, you do not fly. Period." Her gaze sweeps across the crowd, daring anyone to challenge her. She then signals to airport security with an exaggerated theatrical urgency. Two officers approach, their expressions more weary than alarmed. They see a calm, polite-looking teenager, not the master criminal Brenda is painting her as. "I want this boarding pass verified by the fraud prevention unit, immediately," Brenda demands, snatching the two torn halves of the pass from Maya's hand and thrusting them at one of the officers. "Check for counterfeiting, stolen credit cards, check for everything." The security officer exchanges an uncomfortable glance with his partner. "Ma'am, our gate system's already validated the ticket. It came back clean." "I don't care what your flimsy systems show." Brenda's voice rises, reaching a performative crescendo. She points a trembling, accusatory finger at Maya. "Look at her. Just look at her. Does she look like she belongs in first class?" A collective gasp ripples through the crowd. The sheer, naked prejudice of the statement is shocking. A few passengers begin to back away, a sudden unease on their faces, sensing they are witnessing something that has crossed a line from security procedure to outright bigotry. But others, emboldened by Brenda's certainty, lean in closer, their expressions a mix of curiosity and grim approval. "Her father," Brenda continues, her voice dripping with scorn, "supposedly works in aviation. He's probably a janitor who stole a passenger's identity to scam a free ride for his daughter." Maya feels the hot sting of tears welling in her eyes, but she fights them back with a force of will that surprises even herself. She remembers her father's words, a lesson taught over and over. Tears give the bullies exactly what they want. Don't ever give them the satisfaction. "I would like to speak with your supervisor," Maya says, her voice quiet but ringing with a newfound steel. Brenda steps closer, invading Maya's personal space, her voice dropping to a menacing hiss. "I am the supervisor here, little girl, and I'm telling you, and everyone else here, to take your pathetic fraud scheme and try it somewhere else. My aircraft, my cabin, maintain certain standards." The businessman from the line, now fully invested in the drama, chimes in again. "Just stick her in the back in economy, Brenda. Let's get this plane boarded." Brenda basks in the man's support, her cruelty expanding to fill the space her audience has given her. "No," she declares, shaking her head with an air of solemn duty. "She didn't just make a mistake. She attempted to defraud this airline. Security needs to conduct a full investigation before she gets the chance to try this on another flight." One of the security officers, clearly uncomfortable, attempts to de-escalate. "Miss, perhaps we could just call your father to verify—" "Her father?" Brenda interrupts with a booming, theatrical laugh of disbelief. "You mean the mysterious aviation worker who supposedly bought his teenage daughter a $10,000 plane ticket?" "Right." She sees Maya reach for her phone and physically blocks her arm. "Oh, no, you don't. No coaching from your accomplices." She turns to the security officers, her face a mask of grim determination. "Security, I want her detained, now. Detained until we can verify that she didn't use stolen credit card information to purchase this ticket." Brenda's finger jabs into Maya's chest one more time, a final, violating punctuation. "You picked the wrong flight attendant to mess with, sweetheart." The crowd watches, a silent, captivated chorus, as unchecked authority attempts to crush a quiet, 17-year-old girl in real time. But as Maya looks up, her eyes are no longer those of a confused teenager. They are narrow, focused, and utterly devoid of fear. She remembers exactly who she is, and more importantly, who taught her to never, ever back down. Maya does not shrink. She does not cry. Instead, she studies Brenda's face with a strange, surgical precision, memorizing every line, every sneer, every flicker of cruel satisfaction in her eyes. Her father's voice, calm and resolute, echoes in her mind. When someone shows you who they are, Maya, believe them the first time. Then you decide what you're going to do about it. "Ma'am," Maya's voice drops to barely a whisper, but it cuts through the noise with an unnerving intensity that makes Brenda's triumphant smile falter for the first time. "I am going to board this flight, in first class, as ticketed." "Like hell you are," Brenda snarls, recovering her composure. She waves dismissively at the gate agent. "Start boarding the other passengers around her. Security, escort her out of my gate area, now." But the officers hesitate. Something about this situation feels deeply, fundamentally wrong. The teenager isn't screaming or crying. She shows no signs of deception. She radiates a quiet, unshakable determination that makes them deeply uncomfortable with Brenda's escalating, hysterical demands. "I need to use the restroom first," Maya states. It's a simple, reasonable request. Brenda, believing she has already won, scoffs. "Fine, you have 2 minutes. Then you're gone." She turns her back on Maya to accept the silent congratulations from the passengers who supported her, basking in the warm glow of her perceived victory. The moment Maya is out of sight, she ducks into the nearest restroom. Her hands are shaking, but her fingers are steady as she dials her father's private line. It goes straight to voicemail. Of course, he's trapped in a marathon of board meetings all morning. Plan B. She dials his executive assistant. "Apex Air Executive Office, Mr. Harrison's desk." "Linda, it's Maya. I need you to do something for me, right now, and it is urgent." Linda's warm, professional tone shifts immediately to one of concern. "Maya, honey, what's wrong? You sound different." "I'm fine, Linda." But a senior flight attendant named Brenda Walsh just made the biggest mistake of her entire life. I need you to pull her complete employee file, everything, and then connect me to the head of passenger services immediately." "What's happening?" "No time to explain," Maya says, her voice carrying a cold, hard authority that Linda has only ever heard from one other person, Maya's father during a corporate crisis. "Patch me through to passenger services. Authorization code Delta 7 Alpha." Linda gasps. "It's an executive override code, reserved for the highest levels of corporate emergency." "Connecting you now, Maya." A moment later, a man's voice comes on the line. "Passenger services. This is Michael. How can I—" "Michael, my name is Maya Harrison. I need the complete service record, disciplinary history, and current flight assignment for a senior flight attendant named Brenda Walsh. I need it in my inbox in the next 60 seconds. A confused silence stretches across the line. "Miss Harrison, but you're supposed to be on the anonymous travel audit program." "I'm calling you from a restroom at gate B22. Maya cuts in, her voice like ice. "Where your employee, Brenda Walsh, just publicly denied me boarding, accused me of credit card fraud in front of at least 200 witnesses, and physically assaulted me while multiple phones recorded every single second." The full, horrifying implications of her words hit Michael like a physical blow. "Jesus Christ," he breathes. What do you need?" "I need full documentation," Maya says, her executive training kicking into high gear. "Every complaint ever filed against her, every incident report, every warning. I want her direct supervisor contacted immediately and told to report to gate B22. And Michael," she adds, her voice dropping, "make damn sure our head of passenger relations understands that as of right now, this is a federal discrimination case." "Consider it done," Michael says, his voice shaking. "Should we alert your father?" "Not yet," Maya replies. "Let me handle Brenda Walsh my way first." She ends the call and takes a deep breath, staring at her own reflection in the mirror. The scared teenager is gone. In her place is someone she barely recognizes, someone forged in the fire of public humiliation. She walks back out to the gate area, her phone already buzzing with incoming encrypted files. Brenda is holding court, regaling a small group of admiring passengers with embellished stories of the fraudulent riffraff she's heroically vanquished over the years. The woman has absolutely no idea that she's boasting about her discriminatory practices to the customers of the man who owns the airline right after she assaulted his only daughter. Maya's phone screen glows with the damning story of Brenda Walsh's career. It's worse than she could have imagined. 14 separate disciplinary actions, 6 formal passenger complaints for harassment, 3 prior federal discrimination warnings for racial profiling. She was never terminated, Maya realizes, because she was protected by a middle manager who valued instinct over policy. That protection, Maya thinks with a cold fury, ends in approximately 8 minutes. Brenda notices Maya's return, and her face twists into a smirk of predatory satisfaction. "Security, I thought I told you to get her out of here." "Actually, ma'am," the senior officer says, his tone having undergone a dramatic shift. "We'd like to have a word with you. Privately." He had received a frantic call from passenger services during Maya's absence. His instructions were now crystal clear. Do not let the girl out of your sight. Do not let the flight attendant leave. Document everything. "I'm busy boarding my plane," Brenda snaps dismissively. "Handle this fraud case and let me do my job." Ignoring her, Maya walks with a newfound calm directly to the gate podium. "I'd like to file a formal complaint." Brenda laughs, a sound of genuine, derisive amusement. "Against whom? Yourself for attempted fraud?" "Against you," Maya says, her voice clear and steady, carrying across the now quieting gate area. "For discrimination, for assault, and for multiple violations of federal transportation regulations. Brenda's confidence finally wavers. The teenager is speaking with a chilling legal precision that suggests a deeply uncomfortable familiarity with airline policies and federal law. "You made physical contact with me without my consent," Maya continues, ticking off the violations. "You illegally seized my personal property, and you denied me a federally regulated service based on nothing more than racial profiling." Every word is a hammer blow, recorded by dozens of phones that are now, suddenly, pointed at Brenda. The mood of the crowd has shifted from entertainment to shock. People are reviewing their videos, realizing they haven't just captured airport drama. They've captured a potential federal crime. I followed proper security protocols," Brenda stammers. "You followed your personal prejudice." Maya cuts through her defense like a surgeon's scalpel. "Tell me, Miss Walsh, what specific, documented indicators of fraud did you observe in my behavior? What page in your training manual authorizes you to determine a passenger's suitability for travel based on their choice of clothing?" Brenda is thrown completely off balance. She expected tears, submission, a frightened retreat. She did not expect a cross-examination from a 17-year-old who sounds like she's just stepped out of a corporate law firm. "I have 23 years of experience with this airline," she sputters. 23 years of documented discrimination," Maya counters, holding up her phone. She angles the screen so those nearby can see the damning list of Brenda's disciplinary record, including the 3 previous racial profiling incidents that had somehow failed to end her career. The crowd falls silent. Brenda's face drains of all color as she stares in horror at confidential personnel information glowing on a teenager's phone screen. How did you get that?" "The real question, Ms. Walsh, is why you are still an employee of this airline despite being a walking, talking violation of federal civil rights law." Maya steps closer, her voice dropping to a low, boardroom intensity that makes the air crackle. "But don't you worry about that. That particular situation is being addressed as we speak." Just then, a harried-looking man in a rumpled suit appears, rushing towards the gate. It's Brenda's supervisor, James Mitchell, summoned by an emergency Code Red call from corporate headquarters about an executive-level passenger incident. His grim, panicked expression suggests that this conversation is not going to end well for Brenda. But she still has no idea how catastrophically, apocalyptically wrong she has been about absolutely everything. "Brenda, we need to talk. Now." Supervisor James Mitchell's voice is tight with an urgency that silences the remaining chatter in the gate area. He'd received a call that made his blood run cold, something about a top-tier executive passenger and a major incident. He arrives to see Brenda squared off against a teenager. "James, perfect timing," Brenda says, relief washing over her face. "This girl is trying to board with fraudulent documents. I caught her red-handed—" "Stop talking!" Mitchell's command is so sharp, so brutal, it slices through Brenda's sentence like a guillotine. He turns to Maya, his face a mask of frantic apology. Miss Harrison, I am so sorry. I sincerely apologize for this entire incident. Please, let me personally ensure you are properly accommodated." Brenda's confusion curdles into a thick, rising panic. Why is Mitchell treating this teenage scam artist with the kind of deference reserved for board members? "I appreciate that, Mr. Mitchell," Maya replies, her tone as cool and polished as a boardroom table. "But I think we need to address the systemic issues here that allowed an incident like this to happen in the first place." She speaks with an unnatural authority that makes Mitchell visibly sweat. "Absolutely, of course. Whatever you need," he stammers. "I need Miss Walsh to explain her actions to these witnesses," Maya says, gesturing with a sweep of her arm to the crowd of passengers, all of whom are still recording. "They were her audience. They deserve to understand what they just participated in." Brenda finally realizes she has lost complete and utter control of the situation. "James, what is going on? Why are you—" "Because," Mitchell whispers, his voice trembling as he steps closer to her. I just got off the phone with the corporate headquarters of this airline, with the executive floor. Brenda, do you have any idea what you've just done? I protected our security, she insists, her voice cracking, from obvious fraud. You attacked the wrong person, Brenda, Mitchell says, his eyes wide with fear. The absolutely monumentally career-endingly wrong person. Just then, Maya's phone rings. The caller ID flashes a single word. Dad. She glances at it, and with a calm deliberation that shocks Mitchell to his core, she declines the call. He recognizes the terrifying implication immediately. This teenager doesn't just have connections. She has the kind of power where she can send the CEO to voicemail during a crisis. Ms. Walsh, Maya says, her voice devoid of all emotion. You have 30 seconds to publicly apologize to these passengers for the blatant discrimination they just witnessed. Her calm, quiet ultimatum is more terrifying than any shouted threat could ever be. I will not apologize for doing my job properly, Brenda shrieks, her professionalism shattering into a million pieces. Your job, Mitchell says, producing his company tablet with trembling hands, ended approximately 10 minutes ago. Brenda Walsh, you are suspended effective immediately, pending a federal investigation. Security will now escort you off company property. Brenda stares in utter disbelief as 23 years of seniority, authority, and identity crumble into dust around her. You can't suspend me over this little... Watch your next words very, very carefully, Mitchell warns, his voice filled with genuine dread. The crowd buzzes, a storm of whispers and speculation. Phone cameras are still rolling. Who is this teenager? Who is this girl who can end a 2-decade career with a single, quiet phone call? Brenda is about to find out that works in aviation was the understatement of the century. Brenda's personal phone begins to explode. A tidal wave of notifications lights up her screen. Text messages flood in from her colleagues. What did you do? Corporate is having a meltdown. Brenda, you're trending on Twitter. Got Apex Air racism. Call me. They're pulling you from the line. With a shaking hand, she opens her social media app. The videos are already there, posted and reposted thousands of times. The hashtag, Airline Karen, is climbing the trending lists with terrifying speed. The comments are a torrent of pure vitriol, personal and brutal. This has to be a misunderstanding, Brenda stammers, her voice cracking as her entire world disintegrates in real time. James, you know me. I've worked here since I was 21. I thought I knew you, Mitchell replies, his eyes fixed on something on his tablet that makes his face go even paler. He looks up at her, his expression a mixture of pity and terror. Brenda, do you know who Maya Harrison is? She's some kid, Brenda cries, her voice hysterical. Some grifter trying to scam her way into first class. She's the CEO's daughter. The words do not register at first. They are a nonsensical string of sounds. Then they land. Each word is a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. The gate area, which had been buzzing with whispers, falls completely, deathly silent. The only sound is the quiet, relentless hum of phone cameras recording her utter and complete destruction. That's impossible, Brenda whispers. David Harrison doesn't have any kids. She stops, her mind flashing back to years of whispered rumors around the company. Stories about the CEO's fanatical, obsessive protection of his family's privacy. His 17-year-old daughter, Mitchell clarifies, his voice carrying the weight of a judge delivering a death sentence. The daughter who you just publicly accused of fraud, who you physically intimidated, who you humiliated in front of hundreds of people and a dozen live-streaming cameras, creating a federal discrimination case that is already a national news story. Brenda's legs give out. She grabs the podium for support, her vision tunneling as the world tilts violently on its axis. I didn't know, she gasps. I didn't know she was... You didn't know because you saw a black teenager in a hoodie, and your brain defaulted to criminal. Maya's quiet voice cuts through Brenda's desperate excuse. Just like you did with the NFL player last month. Just like you've done, according to your file, in 14 other documented disciplinary incidents. The businessman who had been Brenda's most vocal supporter now looks like he's seen a ghost. He begins backing away slowly, frantically trying to delete the video from his phone, as if that could erase his complicity. The board of directors is convening an emergency session as we speak. Mitchell continues, his voice a relentless, damning litany. The legal department is preparing federal defense statements. Public relations is in full-blown 5-alarm crisis mode, and it's all because you couldn't see past your own ugly prejudices for 5 minutes. Brenda's phone rings. The caller ID says Apex Corporate Security. Her hands are shaking too violently to even attempt to answer it. Ms. Walsh, Maya says, checking her watch with the calm, precise motion of a seasoned executive. You have one final opportunity to salvage anything from this catastrophe. Publicly apologize to every single person who witnessed your behavior, then quietly resign with what little dignity you have left. I won't. I won't resign over this, Brenda whispers defiantly. Then you will be terminated, Mitchell states flatly, with cause, which means no severance package, no positive references, and no pension. Nothing. Brenda is about to learn that humiliating the boss's daughter carries consequences that go far beyond her wildest imagination. Just as the security officers begin to move toward her, a new text message flashes on Maya's phone screen. It's from her father. Boarding now. Your gate. 5 minutes. Brenda sees the message over Maya's shoulder, and a new, deeper wave of terror washes over her. Who's boarding? As if on cue, the entire atmosphere of the gate area transforms. A team of airport security appears, forming a crisp, protective corridor from the main concourse to the jet bridge. Members of Apex Air's elite VIP services team materialize, speaking urgently into their radios. Supervisor James Mitchell frantically straightens his uniform, his face ashen. He looks at Maya. Miss Harrison, your father. He insisted on handling this, personally. He'll be here any second. My father? Maya says, and for the first time since this entire nightmare began, a small, knowing smile touches her lips. Well, that should be interesting. Brenda finally begins to connect the pieces. The frantic deference, the emergency calls from headquarters, the corporate-level panic. But the full, terrifying scope of her mistake still eludes her. James, she whispers, her voice a dry rasp. Who exactly is Harrison? Before Mitchell can answer, the security corridor clears. A man strides through the gate area with the quiet, commanding presence of a person who doesn't just run companies, but builds empires. He is 6'2", impeccably dressed in a dark, tailored suit, and radiates an aura of calm, absolute authority that reshapes the very air around him. It is David Harrison, the founder and CEO of Apex Air. The man whose face graces the covers of Forbes and Fortune, the visionary who transformed a small regional carrier into an international powerhouse. The crowd recognizes him instantly. A wave of gasps and frantic whispers ripples through the terminal. The passengers realize they are no longer just witnesses to an employee's firing. They have been front-row spectators to the systematic and personal destruction of that employee by the company's legendary owner. Daddy, Maya says. The single word, spoken with quiet affection, carries across the silent terminal like a thunderclap. For Brenda Walsh, it is the sound of her world collapsing. Every smug assumption, every self-righteous justification, every single moment of her arrogant, petty tyranny crashes down upon her in a single, crushing wave. The teenager she abused, humiliated, and assaulted is the daughter of the most powerful and respected man in the global aviation industry. David Harrison surveys the scene, his expression as neutral and unreadable as a pilot's horizon, but his employees recognize the dangerous, icy stillness that always precedes a corporate earthquake. "Mr. Harrison, sir, I can explain everything," Mitchell begins, his voice desperate. "No need, James," Harrison says, his voice calm but carrying the unmistakable weight of billion-dollar decisions and boardroom conquests. "I reviewed the gate's security footage on my way over here." He turns his gaze, cold and hard as diamond, onto Brenda. "Ms. Walsh, I presume?" Brenda cannot speak. She can barely breathe. The full magnitude of her actions crashes over her, a tidal wave of pure, undiluted horror. 23 years with my company," Harrison begins, reciting her record from memory as if reading a disappointing quarterly report. 14 disciplinary actions, 6 formal discrimination complaints, 3 federal warnings for racial profiling, and today you chose to physically assault my daughter while publicly accusing her of felony fraud. "Sir, I didn't know she was—" "You didn't know because you saw a young black woman and your mind conjured up a criminal." Harrison's words hit like precision-guided munitions. "The same racist, baseless assumptions you have made repeatedly and with impunity throughout your entire career with my company." He turns slowly to address the mesmerized crowd, his voice rising to command their full attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is David Harrison. You have just witnessed something that violates every single principle upon which I built Apex Air. I founded this company on the unwavering belief that every passenger, every single person, deserves to be treated with dignity and with respect." The phones are still recording his every word. This impromptu press conference will be replayed millions of times across every news network and social media platform on the planet. "Ms. Walsh's behavior today," he continues, his gaze returning to pin Brenda to the spot, "represents the absolute antithesis of our values. She profiled my daughter based on the color of her skin. She physically intimidated a minor. She denied a ticketed service based on nothing but her own personal prejudice." His voice builds with a methodical, controlled fury. "This ends. Now." Brenda finally finds her voice, a pathetic, pleading whimper. "Mr. Harrison, please, I made a mistake." "You made a choice," he corrects her, his voice devoid of any warmth. "You have been making this same choice for 23 years. You chose prejudice over policy. You chose assumptions over evidence. You chose public humiliation over basic human decency." He produces his own phone with a deliberate theatrical ceremony. "I am calling our general counsel right now. Federal discrimination charges will be filed against you personally within the hour. Criminal assault charges for laying your hands on my daughter, and a litany of civil rights violations for denying service based on race." Brenda's knees finally buckle. Her future is not just crumbling, it is being systematically obliterated in real time. "Sir, please," she sobs. "I have children, a mortgage." "The time for please was before you laid your hands on my child." Harrison's executive calm never wavers, making his words more devastating than any rage-filled shouting could ever be. "The time for please was before you tore up her boarding pass, before you publicly accused her of being a thief, before you called security to have her arrested for the crime of being a black teenager in a first-class line." He turns to Mitchell, his focus shifting with surgical precision. "James, Ms. Walsh's termination is effective immediately. Security will escort her from company property. Her badge, all access cards, and any and all company property are to be collected on the spot." The crowd watches in stunned, rapt silence as one of the most powerful CEOs in America utterly destroys a career in real time. transforming a horrifying act of discrimination into a brutal, unforgettable, teachable moment about consequences. But Brenda is about to learn that this is only the beginning of her destruction. "Our legal team is standing by for your statement, Ms. Walsh." David Harrison gestures to two sharply dressed individuals, a man and a woman, who seem to materialize out of the crowd. They are the company's top litigators. "But first," Harrison continues, his voice resonating with cold authority, "let's address the broader implications of your actions here today." Brenda stares at the approaching lawyers in growing horror. A statement? Federal law required detailed documentation for civil rights cases. Her spontaneous, public tirade was now evidence in a federal investigation. "Your behavior today violated the Civil Rights Act of 1964, multiple Federal Aviation Administration regulations, and at least a dozen sections of our own company policy," the female attorney Sarah Chen begins, her tablet already open. Her voice is crisp, professional, and utterly devoid of sympathy. Each violation carries its own specific set of penalties. Harrison continues his systematic dismantling with the precision of a corporate takeover. "James, I want every single passenger who was forced to witness this incident to be fully compensated. Full refunds for their tickets, automatic first-class upgrades on all their future flights with us for the next 5 years, and a formal, written apology from me personally." "Absolutely, sir. Right away." Mitchell scribbles frantically in a notebook. "I also want a complete, top-to-bottom audit of Ms. Walsh's entire service record, every passenger interaction, every flight log, for the past 10 years. Any further evidence of discriminatory behavior is to be compiled and handed over to federal authorities immediately." Brenda feels the scope of her personal apocalypse expanding exponentially, far beyond her worst nightmares. "Mr. Harrison," she pleads, "surely we can resolve this internally, through HR." Harrison lets out a short, sharp laugh that contains no humor whatsoever. "Internal resolution? You assaulted my daughter in front of 200 witnesses while their phones recorded every second of it for the world to see. This stopped being an internal matter the moment you decided to make a public spectacle of your own bigotry." His phone buzzes incessantly, texts and emails from board members, media outlets, government officials, all responding to the viral videos that are now spreading across the globe like a digital wildfire. The Apex Air stock price is already fluctuating with each new headline. "Ms. Chen," Harrison asks, without taking his eyes off Brenda, "what are the maximum federal penalties for an airline employee found guilty of criminal discrimination?" "Criminal charges can carry up to 10 years in a federal prison, sir," Chen replies coolly. "Civil penalties can reach upwards of $150,000 per violation. The victim can also seek unlimited additional damages for emotional distress, punitive measures, and all associated legal costs." Brenda's face goes ashen. The numbers are astronomical, capable of destroying not just her life, but the lives of her entire family. I can't afford that kind of... "You should have considered the financial consequences before you decided to commit federal crimes," Harrison retorts, showing not a shred of sympathy for the woman who terrorized his child. "But your personal consequences pale in comparison to the damage you have done to this company." He turns to address the crowd again, his voice resonating with executive authority. "Apex Air will cooperate fully and transparently with all federal investigators. Furthermore, we will immediately implement new training protocols, new oversight systems, and new stringent accountability measures to ensure that nothing like this ever happens again on one of our flights. This incident will become the catalyst for positive, industry-wide change." To his surprise, several passengers begin to applaud spontaneously. They are witnessing something almost unheard of in modern corporate life: real, immediate, and decisive accountability. A passenger from the back calls out, Mr. Harrison, that's great, but how do we know this isn't just PR damage control? Harrison nods, appreciating the challenging question. A fair point. Here is what happens next. Within 30 days, we will publish a comprehensive, public Dignity in the Skies plan. Every single Apex Air employee, from the baggage handlers to the boardroom, will undergo mandatory, quarterly implicit bias training with real, career-ending consequences for failure. Our customer service representatives will be given the authority and the mandate to override any decision made by any employee that appears to be discriminatory in nature. He continues, building momentum, masterfully turning a corporate disaster into a branding opportunity. We are establishing a new, independent passenger advocacy board with genuine power to investigate complaints. Every allegation of discrimination will get an external review by leading civil rights experts. Any employee found guilty of bias will face immediate termination and referral for federal prosecution. Brenda watches as her former colleagues, the same people she gossiped with in the break room, film her boss's promises on their phones. She realizes with a sickening certainty that the company is using her personal destruction as the foundation for its corporate transformation. Additionally, Harrison announces, Apex Air will immediately fund a multi-million-dollar scholarship program for underrepresented students who wish to pursue careers in aviation. Because the best and only response to discrimination is to create opportunity for everyone. The crowd erupts in genuine, sustained applause. David Harrison has, in the space of 10 minutes, transformed a viral discrimination crisis into a powerful moment of corporate leadership that will be studied in business schools for decades. Attorney Chen steps toward Brenda, holding out a set of legal documents. Ms. Walsh, you have the right to legal representation during federal questioning. I would strongly advise you to secure a lawyer. I want to explain my side of what happened, Brenda whimpers. There is no your side to federal discrimination. Chen's interruption is sharp and final. There are facts, there are witness statements, there is high-definition video evidence, and there are legal consequences. Your explanations will not change a single one of those realities. Harrison checks his watch with executive precision. The FBI's Civil Rights Division is dispatching agents to interview witnesses now. As of this moment, this gate area is officially a federal crime scene. The word FBI sends a new jolt of terror through Brenda. This has transformed from a terrible employment dispute into a federal criminal case with life-altering, terrifying implications. "Sir, I have children," she cries. A last, desperate plea. A mortgage. Responsibilities. "So did every passenger you discriminated against over the past 23 years. Harrison's response carries no warmth, no pity. Their personal situations didn't stop you from treating them with systematic contempt. Just then, the first media crews arrive, cameras rolling, having tracked the viral videos to their explosive source. Harrison sees not chaos, but opportunity. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," he begins, his voice booming across the concourse. "Apex Air has always believed that it is our response to a crisis that defines our true character. Today we choose accountability over excuses. We choose systemic change over minimal compliance." Reporters shout questions, but Harrison maintains absolute control of the narrative. "Ms. Walsh will face the full legal consequences for her criminal actions. Our company will implement the most comprehensive anti-discrimination program in the history of commercial aviation." "And my daughter," he says, putting a protective arm around Maya, "will now board this flight in first class, as ticketed, with the dignity and respect that every single one of our passengers deserves." Brenda Walsh finally understands. She has not just been fired. She has been erased. She has become the poster child for everything wrong with corporate culture. Her name, her face, her actions will be referenced in business schools, legal textbooks, and sensitivity training seminars for decades to come. A permanent monument to prejudice and its consequences. A reporter calls out, "Mr. Harrison, what message does this send to your employees?" David Harrison's answer rings across the terminal like a new corporate manifesto. Simple. Discrimination has consequences. Real consequences. Career-ending, life-altering consequences. Bias isn't just morally wrong. In this company, it is now legally actionable and professionally fatal. Brenda's phone, still buzzing in her hand, is a conduit of her social execution. Messages from family, friends, and former colleagues paint a horrifying picture. The videos have reached millions. Her face is now, and will forever be, synonymous with airline discrimination worldwide. "Security," Harrison says, his voice dropping back to a quiet command. "Please escort Ms. Walsh from the premises. Her employment with Apex Air is terminated, effective now. All benefits, pension contributions, and severance are forfeited due to termination with cause for gross misconduct." The officers finally take her by the arms. As they lead her away, a pariah in the company she served for more than half her life, Brenda knows, with a chilling certainty, that her legal nightmare is just beginning. What do you think is a just punishment for Brenda's actions? Should a single mistake, no matter how awful, ruin someone's entire life? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe in the kind of accountability you just witnessed, hit that like button to help this story reach more people. 3 weeks later, Brenda sits in a sterile federal courthouse, facing the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams. The civil rights hearing has become a national media event, with Apex Air's radical transformation serving as a stark, dramatic counterpoint to Brenda's complete and utter downfall. "Ms. Walsh, you stand accused of violating federal civil rights law, assault, and discrimination under the color of authority." Judge Williams's voice is deep and resonant with judicial gravity as she reviews the mountain of evidence before her. "How do you plead?" Brenda's overworked, exhausted public defender whispers urgently in her ear, but she is lost in a fog of denial and self-pity. "Not guilty," she mumbles. "I was just performing my job duties." "And your job duties included the physical intimidation of a minor?" Judge Williams' sharp question hangs in the air, instantly silencing the packed courtroom. The prosecutor, a sharp young man named David Martinez, presents his evidence with a methodical, brutal precision. "Your Honor, the defendant's actions were not just inappropriate. They were criminal. They were recorded by dozens of witnesses. The video evidence shows a clear, undeniable pattern of discrimination based on race, followed by physical contact without consent, and a shocking abuse of corporate authority." He plays the footage from the gate area on the large courtroom screens. Brenda is forced to watch her own destruction in high definition. Seeing her sneering face, hearing her cruel words from an outside perspective for the first time, a wave of nausea washes over her. The cruelty is undeniable. It is stomach-turning. "Furthermore, Your Honor," Martinez continues, "the defendant's employment records provided by Apex Air show a documented pattern of this exact behavior spanning her entire career. 14 prior incidents, 6 formal passenger complaints, 3 federal warnings, all of which were ignored by both the defendant and by the airline's previous management structure." Judge Williams pages through Brenda's personnel file, her expression growing more and more concerned. "Ms. Walsh," she says, looking over her glasses at Brenda. "Your record indicates repeated issues with bias over many years. What specific training did you receive from your employer to address these documented problems?" The company provided some workshops," Brenda stammers. "And did you attend these mandatory workshops, Ms. Walsh?" Brenda's silence is the most damning answer she could possibly give. It echoes through the silent courtroom, an admission of willful negligence. David Harrison is called to the witness stand. His testimony is measured, powerful, and devastating. Your Honor, my daughter experienced a trauma that no child should ever have to endure, especially not at the hands of someone entrusted with her safety. But more importantly, Ms. Walsh's actions were not an isolated incident. They were the symptom of a systemic problem that we at Apex Air are now aggressively addressing, not just within our company but across the entire industry. He details the comprehensive response, the complete policy overhaul, the mandatory bias training with real-world consequences, the new independent oversight board, and the zero-tolerance enforcement. In the last 3 weeks, as a result of our internal audit inspired by this case, we have terminated 12 additional employees found guilty of discriminatory behavior. Judge Williams nods, her expression one of clear approval. Mr. Harrison, your company's response to this crisis demonstrates a level of corporate responsibility rarely seen in cases of this nature. Brenda's defender attempts a desperate, last-ditch plea for mercy. Your Honor, my client's career is over. She is unemployable in the aviation industry. She faces complete financial ruin and endures constant social ostracism because of the viral videos. Hasn't she already suffered a proportional consequence for her actions? Has she? Judge Williams's sharp gaze fixes on Brenda, her intensity pinning her to her chair. Ms. Walsh, do you finally understand the profound impact of your actions on Miss Harrison? Yes, Your Honor, Brenda whispers. Do you understand the broader impact on every single passenger who witnessed your behavior? Every person of color who saw those videos and recognized in them their own painful experiences with institutional discrimination? Brenda nods weakly, the full scope of her actions finally, truly dawning on her. Do you understand? The judge's voice rises with righteous anger. That your